Listen, I have been monitoring species across 14 spiral arms for the better part of 3 centuries, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that humans should not exist. They really should not. The mathematics of their survival makes no sense. The biology is a cosmic joke, and their tactical decisions, well, those hover somewhere between inspired genius and suicidal stupidity, with no middle ground whatsoever. My name is Vrell-Tok, Senior Observer for the Galactic Concordance, and the file sitting on my datapad right now is giving me what humans would call a migraine. Subject designation, Captain Marla Vex. Human. Female. Age 32 standard cycles. Decorated Officer of the Terran Defense Initiative. And according to 17 different member species of the Concordance, an existential threat to organized society. The charges? Oh, where do I even start? Unauthorized breach of quarantine protocols. Destruction of Concordance property, approximately 14 million credits worth. Assault on 3 different ambassadors, though she claims that was sparring practice, which somehow makes it worse. Theft of classified military schematics. Conspiracy to commit technological smuggling. And my personal favorite, willful creation of a diplomatic incident during a funeral ceremony when she actually laughed, at the High Chancellor's sacred morning dance. In her defense, and I cannot believe I am saying this, the morning dance did look fairly ridiculous. The Council wanted her eliminated, terminated, erased from existence like a bad calculation. 27 votes in favor, 4 abstentions, and 0 against. They sent the file to my desk with a single instruction: make the human problem disappear. But here is the thing about humans, and this is something my colleagues refuse to understand. You cannot just make them disappear. You really cannot. They have this annoying habit of coming back louder, angrier, and significantly more destructive than before. So instead, I did what any intelligent being would do. I went to meet her myself. The holding facility on Station Kirax 9 was supposed to be escape-proof. Triple redundant force fields, armed guards from 6 different species, surveillance systems that could detect a heartbeat through solid titanium. Captain Vex had been there for approximately 47 hours. She had already escaped twice. They kept catching her, obviously, because where exactly was she going to go on a space station? But the principle remained disturbing. The guards looked exhausted, their weapons charged but their spirits clearly depleted. And I could hear someone yelling in what I recognized as crude Vrellian, my own language, except with an accent so terrible it was causing me physical pain. Your mother couples with defective waste processors. Your father has the intelligence of ionized gas. You all look like someone sat on your faces with a gravity amplifier. I found Captain Marla Vex in cell block 7, standing at the force field barrier, still shouting insults she had clearly learned phonetically with 0 understanding of grammar or context. She was short by human standards, maybe 5 feet and 4 inches, with dark brown skin, close-cropped black hair, and eyes that held enough fury to power a small star. She stopped mid-insult when she saw me, her eyes narrowing with immediate suspicion. Well, she said, switching to flawless galactic standard. They finally sent someone important. Let me guess. You are here to give me the "we value all species equally" speech before you space me out an airlock. I adjusted my sensory stalks, a gesture of polite greeting she probably did not recognize. Observer Vrell-Tok, Galactic Concordance. And no, Captain Vex, I am not here to kill you. Pity, she said, crossing her arms. At least that would be interesting. I accessed my datapad, pulling up her file. You understand the situation you are in, yes? 17 member species have called for your execution. The council vote was nearly unanimous. You have perhaps the worst diplomatic record I have seen in 300 years of service. Is that counting the time the Zelfarian trade minister tried to eat his own delegation? Or are we just talking about me? Just you. She grinned, and Saints of the Seven Sons. Humans have disturbing facial expressions. Then, I am honored. I studied her for a long moment. Here was a being who should be terrified, who should be pleading for mercy or at least showing some basic survival instinct. And instead she was making jokes. Either she was completely insane, which was possible, or she knew something I did not, which was more likely, and infinitely more concerning. Tell me, Captain Vex, I said slowly. Why did you breach the quarantine zone around Helix? For? Her expression shifted, the mockery draining away to something harder, colder. You read the file. You know why? I read that you violated 17 interstellar laws, endangered your crew, and directly disobeyed orders from your commanding officers. What I did not read was a satisfactory explanation. She stepped closer to the force field, close enough that I could see the small scars on her knuckles, the tired shadows under her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, dangerous. Helix, for had a population of 6,000 colonists. Humans, yes, but also Vrellians, Cantorians, even a handful of Prixians who had settled there for the mining operations. When the plague hit, the Concordance declared quarantine protocols and refused to send aid. No medicine, no rescue ships, nothing. Just a nice clean perimeter and orders to let everyone inside die. The plague was deemed too dangerous, I said, though my mandibles clicked with discomfort. Containment was the only logical response. Logical, she repeated and laughed, but there was no humor in it. 6,000 people, Vrell-Tok. 6,000 living, breathing, thinking beings, and your logic said let them burn. And you decided to play hero. No, she said sharply. I decided to do my job. I am a captain in the Terran Defense Initiative. Defense. That means I defend people, not abandon them, because some committee decided the math did not work out. I consulted my datapad again. You took the TDI Phantom, a stealth reconnaissance vessel worth approximately 6 million credits, and flew it directly through Concordance blockade lines. You landed on Helix, 4, made contact with the quarantine zone, and extracted 47 survivors before your ship was damaged by automated defense systems. Then you crashed on the southern continent, and somehow kept those survivors alive for 11 days before rescue arrived. Sounds about right. You also stole Concordance medical supplies, hacked into restricted databases to find the plague's genetic markers, and synthesized a cure using stolen equipment. I prefer the term borrowed. 3 of the ambassadors you assaulted were the ones who voted for the Helix, for quarantine in the first place. Her smile was sharp enough to cut steel. Like I said, sparring practice. I closed my datapad and looked at her directly, all 4 of my eyes focused in what my species considers an aggressive stare. She did not flinch. You understand that what you did, regardless of your intentions, has created a political catastrophe. 7 species are threatening to withdraw from the Concordance. 3 have already filed formal complaints with their home governments. You have destabilized decades of careful diplomatic work. Good, she said simply. Good. If your careful diplomatic work means abandoning 6,000 people to die, then yes, good. Burn it down. Start over. Build something better. I felt my temperature rising, a biological response to stress that I could not quite control. This human, this impossible, infuriating human, actually believed what she was saying. She was not posturing, not playing some elaborate game. She genuinely thought she was right. The terrifying part was, I was starting to agree with her. Captain Vex, I said finally, I am going to be honest with you, which is something I rarely do with prisoners. The Council wants you dead, but killing you will solve nothing. You will become a martyr, a symbol, and humans have this unfortunate tendency to rally around their martyrs with frightening efficiency. So, instead, I'm going to make you an offer. She raised an eyebrow. I am listening. The Concordance has a problem. We have several problems, actually, but one in particular that requires a very specific skill set. Someone who does not care about diplomatic niceties, who can operate outside standard protocols, and who is, shall we say, comfortable with violence when necessary. You want me to work for you. I want you to work for the Concordance, yes. Under my direct supervision. You will have limited autonomy, significant oversight, and absolutely no authority to start any wars. Any new wars, she corrected. Any new wars, I agreed reluctantly. She was quiet for a moment, considering. Then, what is the problem? I pulled up a holographic display, showing a sector of space near the galactic rim. For the past 8 months, ships have been disappearing in this region. Commercial vessels, private transports, even military scouts. No distress signals, no wreckage, nothing. Just gone. 47 ships in total, carrying approximately 2,000 beings. Pirates. No pirate operation is this clean. We have investigated every known criminal organization in the sector. Nothing. Spatial anomaly? We mapped every gravitational fluctuation within 50 light years. The space is stable. She studied the display, her expression shifting from defensive to analytical. I could almost see her mind working, processing, calculating. You think it is someone inside the Concordance, she said finally. Smart. Dangerously smart. We have suspicions, I admitted. But no proof, and no one we trust to investigate without triggering more political complications. Which brings us back to you, Captain. You are already a pariah. You have no political capital to lose, no reputation to protect. And you have demonstrated a remarkable talent for finding trouble. You mean causing trouble. That too. She smiled again, but this time it reached her eyes, transforming her face from dangerous to something approaching excitement. If I do this, I want full access to Concordance resources. Ships, weapons, personnel. And I want complete operational authority once we are in the field. You can supervise all you want from here, but out there, I make the calls. Absolutely not. Then space me, she said cheerfully. Make me a martyr. See how that works out for your political career. I wanted to argue, to point out the 17,000 regulations she would violate with that level of authority. But looking at her face, I knew she meant it. This human would rather die than submit to micromanagement. Saints help me. Fine, I said. But I am coming with you. Someone needs to ensure you do not accidentally trigger a multi-species war. Too late for that, I think. She extended her hand through the force field, apparently forgetting it was still active. The energy barrier crackled, sending painful feedback through her arm, but she just laughed and pulled back. So, partner, when do we leave? I deactivated the force field with my command override. Immediately. And Captain? Try not to assault anyone on the way to the shuttle bay. No promises, Observer. As she walked past me, heading toward the corridor with confident strides like she owned the station, I wondered what exactly I had just unleashed. The answer would come soon enough, and it would be far worse than I imagined. The shuttle ride to the outer rim was supposed to take 6 hours. Captain Marla Vex managed to start 3 arguments, hack into my personal files, reprogram the navigation system to play what she called classic Earth rock music at volumes that violated several noise ordinances, and somehow convince our pilot, a normally stoic Priyan named Kelm, to teach her curse words in 14 languages. I was already regretting every decision that led me to this moment. So let me get this straight, Vex said, spinning in her seat to face me while completely ignoring basic shuttle safety protocols. 47 ships disappear without a trace. The Concordance has literally 0 leads. And your brilliant plan is to fly into the same region and hope we get grabbed too? That is an oversimplification, but essentially accurate, yes. She laughed, loud and sharp. I love it. Terrible plan, probably going to get us killed, but I absolutely love it. Your enthusiasm for potentially fatal situations is disturbing. You say disturbing, I say efficient. Why waste time on surveillance and reconnaissance when we can just walk into the trap ourselves? Cut out the middleman. Kelm made a chittering sound from the pilot seat that I recognized as Priyan amusement. Even he was falling under her influence, which should have been impossible given that Prixians literally did not understand human humor on a neurological level. I pulled up the data again, studying the disappearance patterns. Every ship had vanished in the same general corridor, a stretch of empty space between 2 minor trade routes. No colonies nearby, no strategic resources, nothing that should attract attention. The perfect place for something to hide. Tell me about the ships, Vex said, suddenly serious. Sizes, crew complements cargo. Mixed. Everything from small private yachts to bulk freighters. Crews ranging from 3 to 40. Cargo, when present, was mostly standard commercial goods, though 3 were carrying medical supplies and 1 had a shipment of Vrell-Tok pieces. Medical supplies, she repeated. That is interesting. How so? Because pirates would want them, but pirates leave evidence. Bodies, wreckage, ransom demands. This is too clean for criminals. Too organized. She drummed her fingers on the console, a nervous habit I was already learning to recognize. What about the timing? Any pattern there? I highlighted the disappearance dates on the holographic display. Irregular intervals. Anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks between incidents. So not automated. Someone is actively selecting targets. Her eyes narrowed. And someone with access to shipping schedules, flight plans, maybe even Concordance tracking systems. Which brings us back to the theory of internal involvement. Exactly. She stood up, pacing the small shuttle cabin despite Kelm's protests about turbulence. Okay, so we have an organized operation, probably multiple ships, definitely inside knowledge, and a willingness to disappear 2,000 people without leaving evidence. That takes resources, planning, and most importantly, a reason. What do you do with 2,000 kidnapped beings? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. I had been avoiding that particular line of thinking because every answer I generated was worse than the last. Forced labor, I said finally. Slavery, illegal experimentation, ransom on a massive scale. Or something we have not thought of yet, which is even more fun. She stopped pacing, turning to face me with an expression I could not quite read. Vrell-Tok, I need you to be honest with me. Why did you really pull me out of that cell? Because I am having trouble believing the Concordance suddenly developed a conscience. I adjusted my sensory stalks, a stalling tactic, while I considered how much truth to share. You want honesty? Fine. The Council does not care about finding those ships. They care about appearances, about maintaining the illusion of control. If this investigation fails, they will blame you, the unstable human, and move on. If it succeeds, they will take credit and still probably execute you for your previous crimes. Wow, she said. That is amazingly bleak. But I care, I continued. 2,000 people, Captain. 2,000 beings with families, with lives, with futures. They deserve better than bureaucratic indifference and political maneuvering. You understand that, I think. It is why you went to Helix, for despite the consequences. She was quiet for a long moment, studying me with those disturbingly perceptive human eyes. Then she smiled, but it was different this time, softer, genuine. Okay, Vrell-Tok. I believe you. Let us go find your missing ships and probably get ourselves killed in the process. The trap, when it came, was almost disappointingly obvious. We had been flying through the corridor for approximately 2 hours when our sensors detected a distress beacon. Standard emergency frequency, automated message indicating life support failure. Coordinates attached. Textbook bait. Well, Vex said, leaning over the sensor display. That is not suspicious at all. Should we investigate? Kelm asked, his translator struggling with the sarcasm. Absolutely, we should investigate. How else are we going to spring the trap? Vex was already pulling up weapon systems, checking charge levels on the shuttle's defensive grid. Vrell-Tok, what is our firepower situation? Minimal. This is a diplomatic shuttle, not a warship. We have basic shields and 1 medium-range plasma lance. 1? Seriously? The Concordance sent us into a ship-eating anomaly with 1 gun. I believe the plan was surveillance, not engagement. Your plans are terrible, she said cheerfully. Kelm, take us in slow. Keep shields at maximum and be ready to punch it if things get ugly. When things get ugly, I corrected. I like your optimism. The distress beacon led us to a small cargo vessel, drifting dead in space, no lights, no emissions, completely lifeless. Vex studied it through the view screen, her expression calculating. Too perfect, she muttered. Power should show residual heat signatures even if the main reactor is offline. This thing is cold, like it has been here for months. The beacon is recent, Kelm said. Signal strength indicates activation within the last hour. So someone turned it on. Someone who wants us to come closer. Vex grinned. I say we give them what they want. Kelm, match velocity and prepare a docking sequence. Captain, I said carefully, I must protest this course of action. We have insufficient data to assess the threat level. Correct. So we get closer and gather more data. That is called reconnaissance, Vrell-Tok. That is called suicide. Potato, potato. Before I could formulate a proper argument, Kelm had already begun the approach. The shuttle glided toward the derelict cargo vessel, magnetic clamps extending for docking. Everything was proceeding smoothly, which was exactly when I knew something was about to go catastrophically wrong. The attack came from behind us. Proximity alarm screamed as 2 ships, no 3 ships, materialized from what I could only describe as active camouflage. Military-grade stealth systems, probably stolen from Concordance stockpiles. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels, with weapon ports already glowing with charge buildup. Kelm evasive. Vex shouted, but the pilot was already moving, breaking off the docking sequence and throwing the shuttle into a hard spiral that pressed me painfully against my restraints. Plasma fire cut through the space we had occupied a moment before. Our shields flared, absorbing glancing hits, but I could see the energy levels dropping rapidly on the display. Return fire, I ordered. With our 1 gun? Great idea. Let me just solve this 3-on-1 fight with my amazing marksmanship. Despite her sarcasm, Vex was already at the weapons console, her fingers flying across controls with practiced efficiency. Our plasma lance fired, missing the lead ship by meters, but forcing it to break formation. Good enough, she said. Kelm, head for that debris field at coordinates 47 Mark 9. We need cover. That field is extremely unstable, Kelm protested even as he adjusted course. Magnetic interference, radiation pockets, structural hazards. Exactly. They will not expect us to be that stupid. I wanted to argue, but another volley of plasma fire convinced me that stupidity might be our best option. We plunged into the debris field, chunks of destroyed ships and station components spinning past our view screen at terrifying speeds. The pursuing ships followed, but more cautiously, their movements restricted by the obstacles. Vex was muttering to herself, eyes tracking multiple displays simultaneously. Okay, 3 ships, probably 4-person crews each, definitely coordinated, which means shared communications network. Kelm, can you isolate their transmission frequency? The Prion worked as console, without looking up. Scanning. Got it. Encrypted, but standard Concordance military protocol. Perfect. Vrell-Tok, I need you to send a message on that frequency. Tell them, in your most official observer voice, that you are activating emergency protocol Omega-7, and they have 30 seconds to stand down before orbital support arrives. There is no protocol Omega-7. They don't know that. I stared at her. You want me to bluff? Unless you have a better idea. Yes, I want you to bluff. Do your observer thing, sound authoritative and vaguely threatening. Against every instinct screaming in my neural cluster, I activated the communication system and spoke in my most official tone. Attention, unidentified vessels. This is Observer Vrell-Tok of the Galactic Concordance. You are in violation of approximately 47 interstellar laws. I am activating emergency protocol Omega-7. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare for boarding, or you will face immediate destruction by orbital support platforms. Silence. 10 seconds. 20. I was certain the bluff had failed. Then one of the ships peeled away, breaking off pursuit. Then the second. The third hesitated, fired one more shot that Kelm easily avoided, and then retreated as well. No way, I breathed. That actually worked. Vex was laughing, a sound of pure relieved joy. Of course it worked. People who operate in the shadows hate official attention. The moment you made this an official Concordance operation, they had to assume backup was coming. Now Kelm, track those ships. Stay far enough back that they do not spot us, but close enough to follow. They will lead us to their base, I said, understanding dawning. Exactly. We just got ourselves an invitation to the party. We followed the 3 ships for 4 hours, hanging back in the debris field and using passive sensors to track their energy signatures. They led us deeper into the outer rim, past the last charted navigation beacons, into a region of space that officially did not exist on Concordance maps. And there, hanging in the void like a malignant growth, was a station. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, constructed from what looked like dozens of derelict ships welded together into a nightmarish amalgamation of technology. Power readings indicated a population of thousands, and the docking bays were filled with ships, many of which matched the profiles of the missing vessels. "Saints of the Seven Suns," I whispered. "How long has this been here?" "Long enough to become a city," Vex said, her voice tight. "Look at the infrastructure. Power generation, life support, even what looks like agriculture domes. This is not a pirate hideout, Vrell-Tok. This is a colony. A colony built from stolen ships and kidnapped crews. Which means the people we are looking for are probably still alive. But this changes everything. We cannot assault a station that size with a diplomatic shuttle and one plasma lance." I was already working my communicator, trying to establish a connection back to Concordance space. Static. Interference. Either the station was jamming signals, or we were too deep in uncharted space for standard communications to function. "We need to get inside," Vex said suddenly. "Gather intelligence. Find out who is running this operation and why. Then we can call in reinforcements." "That is insane. You say that a lot. I'm starting to think it is your catchphrase." She was already pulling up station schematics, extrapolating from the visible structure. "Look there. Old docking port from what looks like a Vrellian transport. Those use standard universal couplings. We can dock, slip in quietly, do some reconnaissance. And if we are discovered," she patted the sidearm on her hip, a human projectile weapon that I still did not understand the mechanics of. "Then we improvise." I hate improvisation. I know. That is what makes us such a great team. Against literally all better judgment, I found myself nodding. We had come this far. 2,000 people were somewhere on that station, probably scared, definitely in danger. And despite everything, despite the terrible plans and constant rule-breaking and complete disregard for proper protocol, I trusted this impossible human to see this through. Kelm guided us toward the old docking port, moving slowly, using the station's own sensor shadow to hide our approach. The docking clamps engaged with a hollow clang that echoed through our shuttle. And just like that, we were in. Captain Marla Vex checked her weapon, looked at me with that dangerous smile, and said, "Ready to prove them right, Observer?" I clicked my mandibles in what I hoped was determination and not terror. "Let's go save some people, Captain." The airlock opened, and we stepped into the unknown.